Hello, everyone. It's your boy Calvero. Here I am in my bedroom studio. This is where all of the magic happens. It's hardly a studio. There's no room treatment. There's nothing. It's just a room. It's a room with a laptop essentially and a microphone. So I wanted to show you how I made the song I Hate When I Think About You. It's my latest single. I released it a little over a week and a half ago, I think. If you're watching this video, I assume that you know the song. This has been really the best received song that I've released. It's gotten a lot of traction on TikTok because a lot of people have been mishearing the lyrics and thinking that it's about how I'm sexually confused by Hank Green. I'll leave that up to the interpreter whether or not that's what you think it's about. But I'm very happy that it's getting attention because this song was an epic undertaking. I started working on this, I guess, I started writing it back in 2019. And then I think the actual production process was it was probably like a year and a half to make. So I'm going to as far as I can recall, I'm going to break down how I made it. And then I've also got the Pro Tools session here and I will say this is not the mixed version. Tim Smiley mixed the song and made it sound amazing. I just have my own shitty rough mix. So that's what we'll be hearing. And that will just give me the opportunity to really dig deep and show individual tracks. But let's get this started. And I also just wanted to say before we dive in that if this is the sort of thing that you're into, then you might want to join my Patreon. And I'll do a bit more of a plug on that. But that is where I dig deep on a weekly basis into my creative process. People who have been with me on Patreon since December of 2020, they've heard like a version of I Hate When I Think About You since then. So I'm going to be showing you some older versions of this song. And a lot of those versions are available in full or will be available in full on Patreon. So if that's something you're able to do, please consider joining me at patreon.com/CalveroSings, and I will leave a link for that in my show notes. But this whole song started this was in 2019, and this was a month after Terror Jr. had released their album, Unfortunately Terror Jr., and I had co-written 2 songs on that. And I was just kind of like starting to generate ideas to send off to them. Usually the way that it would work was that I'd make a little demo with some ideas, and then they'd take it and kind of like do their own thing and write their own song from that. And so I was doing these little 2 or 3 hour sessions by myself where I was just kind of like, I was just trying out ideas. And I had one of those demos of ideas was the chorus for I Hate When I Think About You. And actually the same melody, the same lyrics. I haven't changed anything since then. A completely different verse. It was written as like a piano vibe. And I'll show you just like a little bit of what it sounds like. But again, the whole version is on Patreon.
It's black and I hate when I think about you. Got my dark side leaning on the fuse. Been driving all night past corner store lights, wondering if you're out there too.
So yeah, that's how it started. That's my voice cracked. I'm going through puberty. That's how it started, and that's actually how a lot of my songs start. Songs like Believe, Falling Forever, You Were the Only One, songs that eventually turn into bangers. They usually start in demo form as piano ballads. So anyways, I kind of had that. I sent it to the Terror Jr. folks. I sent it to a couple other people, and the feedback that I got was that like great chorus. One of my collaborators who I really appreciate what they have to say about stuff. They said like great chorus, and so I kind of took that as a challenge to be like, okay, I gotta one up the rest of the song. I want the rest of the song to be as good as the chorus. So basically, I held on to this. I knew that it was getting a good reception from my collaborators. And so I had an idea that if I wasn't going to get this cut by an artist, then this would be the next song that I would do. And so at a certain point, I decided that I was going to take another stab at writing the song, and that I was going to I was going to keep the chorus and I was going to take another stab at writing the verses. So then at the end of the year, I think I wrote this first version in February of 2019. The end of the year, around November, I decided to take another stab at the song, and I wrote this as a really gut-wrenching kind of like synth ballad. And I actually listened back to this, and I think that it's incredibly beautiful. And this is going to be this month's Patreon demo for All Access patrons. You'll be able to hear the whole thing. I think it's really, really beautiful. But I think the chorus, am I in frame? The chorus doesn't totally hit, but I'll play you a little bit of it.
Anyone would do. I hate when I think about you. Got my dark side leaning on the fuse. Been driving all night past corner store lights, wondering if.
So yeah, I mean, it's just like, it feels a little awkward when the chorus hits, but it's really nice. So I held on to this, and then basically what happened was I got to the point where I made Black Rain. You can watch my video of how I made Black Rain. I finished Black Rain, March of 2020. And then I think March. And then I decided that I Hate When I Think About You. This was going to be the next song that I was going to make. This was going to be the next Calvero song. Little did I know that, March 2020, and then I released last month. So took an epic journey. So first of all, there's a bit of an epic journey of writing it 2 different times, and then keep in mind I rewrote it a 3rd time because what was happening was that I was starting to build. I decided this version that I just played for you, that was going to be basically that was the song that I was going to produce. And so what I do is that my process is basically, before I go all in and record the vocals, and what I like to do is when I'm really earnestly starting a production, I like to have the vocals fully recorded. I like to have all the harmonies and everything already there. Because I want to make sure that I'm not clouding that the production is just kind of enhancing that, because my stuff is so vocal heavy that I want that to be kind of leading the way for everything else. So usually what I'll do is I'll kind of like demo the song, and then I will use the vocals from that demo to just kind of like build some production sketches. And then once I'm pretty confident about the production direction that I want to go in, then I will record the vocals in earnest, and then I'll start the production from there. So it starts with like a lot of exploration with sketches. And I think what was happening here, let me dig up the session where I was really kind of like digging into this stuff. Okay, I couldn't find the session, but I've got a demo of it. And this is actually the very first demo that I shared on my Patreon. So if you're an All Access member, the very first demo, you can hear the whole thing. Basically, I found a vibe for this song, even though I had always expected it was going to be like a ballad. I was listening to a lot of like Dire Straits, like Walk of Life, and I was listening to a lot of like John Cougar Mellencamp and this guy John Hyatt. He has an album called Bring the Family that I was into. And I was really into Springsteen, Tunnel of Love, the 1987 album that's like very 80s, and it's just like so fantastic. And I was listening to like the Philadelphia soundtrack. That's what what's it called? His song Secret Garden is that on yeah, I think no. It's the other one. Streets of Philadelphia. And I was just I was really into that vibe, and I thought that would be really fun for this song. So I kind of had this idea with like a catchy little guitar line, and it sounds like this.
'Cause I hate when I think about you. Got my dark side leaning on the fuse. Been driving all night past corner store lights, wondering if you're out there too.
I didn't keep that guitar line, but that's pretty cool. I mean, that's what happens for me in the creative process. You just throw a bunch of shit at the wall. And so now we had started this in February of 2019. Now this is May 15th of 2020. So this is almost a year later from when I first wrote the idea. And so I had like that part for the chorus, and then the rest of the verses and the pre-chorus that I had for the really pretty ballad version, it just wasn't jiving with this. And so I just rewrote them for a third time, and this ended up being what I released. There was actually a second verse that I wrote that didn't make it into the song, as we'll discuss. So I kind of got it to a point where I'm just like, okay, now I have the song. I feel good about it. Now I have a general direction. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a collaborator. I want to bring someone else. I want to see what another brain is going to do with this that I can build off of. And so I decided, let's hit up Rami Atasi. If you watched my video for how I made Black Rain, the process for that was that I basically recorded acoustic guitar. I recorded all of the vocals, and then I was just like, hey, why don't you play some guitars? And he sent me a bunch of guitars, and then I built the production from that. And I decided to do the same thing. Another thing that's really cool about this is that the demo that I played for that was available on Patreon, or that is available on Patreon, and that I just played, those vocals that I recorded were demo vocals, but I ended up using those as the lead vocals for the version that's released, because I just felt like the vibe was great. And so there we go. So we had some stuff to build on. And then what I decided to do was I put together a track for Rami that was just those vocals. And I think it was drums. I mean, let me find it real quick, and I'll show you exactly what I sent him. Okay, so I basically just sent him this track, which was just vocals and just like demo drums. And I'm just like, just see if you can vibe out to that. So what I sent him was this.
Cause I hate when I think about you. Got my dark side leaning on the fuse. Been driving all night.
So that's just it. There was just vocals and drums, no nothing. I wanted to give him kind of a clean slate. And so what he did was he sent me a bunch of stuff. And none of it was really, I wasn't really into that much of it. Some of it was kind of like, and that's no shade on Rami, it's just like about sometimes it's just not the right direction. I think that he was trying to take things more into the direction of like how Black Rain was, which is kind of like a melancholy, what would you call it? Just like 90s alt rock Lilith Fair sort of thing. And it just wasn't what I wanted for this. I was starting to think like almost surf rock territory. I was thinking like B-52s. And so he played, there was one part that he played, like this twangy, crunchy rhythm guitar part that I thought was so cool. And what I did was I put that in, and then I built kind of like a fuller demo of kind of like more what I was thinking. And I also included like a demo version of a riff, which is the riff that he ended up recording. And let me play you a little bit of that.
Moving so fast, but I won't break down anytime you want me to.
So that's me playing guitar.
Don't fight it if you can't.
I gotta put that on Patreon too. That's a pretty cool one. I'll make a note of that. So yeah. So that takes us to July of 2020, and so and this is after like a few months of just like rewriting the song a couple times and then finding the right angle. And so I basically sent that to him, and I'm just like, record some layers of the riff and do some guitar of you just kind of like, just playing electric guitar, vibing out. And now we start getting to the territory where I'm starting to get stuff that is actually being used for the actual song. So then I got these guitars from Rami of him just playing the chords and doing like a little bit of improvisation all the way through. And I kept these. I just kept these as is. To me, this is just like really beautiful, and it's really giving me that heartland feel that I was looking for. And then also, here, let me, I'm working real fast behind Pro Tools to get everything. He also retracked the riff, the riff that I demoed, and the way that I played it was just very stiff. I'm not like the most expressive player. Rami is a very expressive player, and he gave me all these layers of the riff. So yeah, that was real exciting to me, and Tim Smiley also made those guitars sound like way better. But yeah, so basically I decided, okay, I've got these guitars, I've got these electric guitars, I've got the riff, I'm feeling good. I didn't like any of the other stuff that I had in that demo that I had played, the surf rock sort of feel. I wasn't feeling it, but I just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna I'm gonna rock with these guitars, and I am going to just kind of like I'm just gonna kind of like record the vocals in full. I'm gonna start now tracking all of my crazy harmonies and everything, and I'm just gonna trust the process, and I'm just going to hope that I figure out the rest of the production at some point. And so then we get to the point where now we're talking about so I've got the lead vocals, right? Here, let's maybe start with the verse, and here, you know what I'll do is let's move to Pro Tools view. One of these days, I'm gonna do a nice setup where I get like the OBS and we can do screen grabs. But until then, we're doing it old school. So basically, I was just working with this.
You came in straight from the heart. I always tried to tell you all. I felt like I've just been here too long.
That was really the vibe. That's kind of the foundation of what I built on top of. So the first thing that I did was here and real quick, let me just mute these guitars and let's focus on the vocals for a while. Now I went really crazy with the vocal layering for this. The vocal recording and layering for this one, if I remember correctly, it took a month and a half. So I went like way more hardcore than I even did for Black Rain, and this was before I got Vocal Line. So this took fucking forever. And what I did, so like even with the verse here, which is just here we go. So this is the lead vocal.
You came in straight from the heart.
What I also did was I recorded these supporting backing parts, just kind of singing the lead part and reinforcing it kind of like quieter. And what I did was I just really wanted to make sure that it was super tight, and it's more something that you don't really hear, but it just makes it sound huger. So like, listen to this.
You came in straight from the heart.
Let me play that a little louder.
You came in straight from the heart.
So there it is. That sounds like that's at least 8 vocals. But then when you combine it with that,
you came in straight from the heart. I always tried to tell you all.
You know, that's like you're listening to 9 or 10 vocals, and that is pretty tight. And so if you look over here, So we're looking at the pre-chorus now. So oh, you can't see what's highlighted here. Let me sorry, we're figuring this out as we go. Um okay. So like this stuff. Each of these right now, this is actually or actually I should say these are all stems of bounce down parts. So this over here, this is one.
Never in a thought, don't fight it if you can't hide it. I'd act tough, feel it, deny it. A monster.
So that's one stem right there. And that's probably like 10 vocals. And then you got the low octave.
Feel it, deny it, rising.
So you got the low octave. Sorry about that. And then you got the harmony.
Deny it.
That's a lower harmony. Then you got the second harmony. Right? And then all together, that starts sounding like this.
I'd act tough, feel it, deny it.
So even though you're looking at I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 four audio files over here, that's probably like, I don't know, 30, 40 vocals, if not more. And then you kind of get to the point where the chorus is sounding like this.
Moving so fast, but I would break down anytime you want me to.
You know, that's thick right there. That's thick. I'll play you a little bit of that without the lead in the way.
Been moving so fast, but I would break down anytime you want me to.
That's satisfying to me. That's like, to me, that's like ABBA shit. That's kind of what I was going for. And this without vocal line, trying to get this all right and lined up and tuned nicely, took a long fucking time, but worth it in my opinion. So the next thing that I did, still kind of clueless about. Still kind of clueless about what the fuck the production was going to be like. I had this idea to do like a big pad of vocals, and this ended up being something that Tim decided didn't even need to be showcased that much in the mix, and he was right. But I had this idea. It was inspired by the song "So Far Away" by Dire Straits, which is the first song on the album. It's the album name. It's the one that Walk of Life and Money for Nothing's on. It's or Brother in Arms. And it just has this part where it's just like these very lush vocal ahs. That just I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do this the Enya way, which is where you record 20 vocals per part. And so I recorded that, and I bounced it all down into one part, and it sounds like this. That's nice, right? Isn't that nice? And then I also have another track, which is where I just went to town and I did a bunch of modulation. I have written down, I use Soundtoys Pan Man, I use Valhalla Supermassive, Valhalla Vintage Verb, and Waves J37 tape. I don't have the plugins open just because I would not be able to run this session unless everything's frozen. But with all the manipulation, it sounds like this. So yeah, that's That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And one thing that I used, I actually made a video about how I made this on my Patreon, but I used what you're hearing when you're hearing the it kind of like going in and out. I use this plugin called Towel Filter 2, which is free, and it's kind of like a poor man's version of LFO Tool by Xfer. And basically what you can do is you can like draw these shapes almost like a tremolo effect, and then you can just kind of like control how rapid it goes. And so that's what I used. And so I felt like, okay, so I got these guitars and I got all these vocals now. So I'm happy with how things are sitting. And I'll just kind of like, I'll show you where things were kind of at this point. So now we got this.
I would break down anytime you want me to.
So that's a good place to be, right? That's a nice place to be. But I just spent a long time just like I had no fucking clue where to go from here. I tried like different drum feels. Nothing really felt right. And then my friend Connor Sullivan, who's a really funny screenwriter and comedian. I don't know how he labels himself. Maybe he doesn't have labels, but we had both been kind of like obsessed with this movie called Local Hero. It's a movie that came out in the 80s, and it has a really great soundtrack by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, and he sent me this tweet that was just like, hey, when are you gonna do a song inspired by the Local Hero soundtrack? And I'm just like, oh my god, that sounds like a great idea. I'm gonna try that for this. And I don't want to incriminate myself. I mean, I didn't rip the song off, but I took inspiration of one of the songs and I just did like a pretty basic ass like kind of rock drum beat, and I liked how it sounded. So I'll play you a little bit of this. Is just the drums in the chorus. So I was rocking out to that, and then things were coming together. So with the guitar now, I'm rocking with this. Right, so that's feeling good. And then the next thing that I did was I laid down this synth bass. And the synth bass, there's three layers to this. You got the first one. So you got that. That's just kind of like a basic synth bass, subby synth bass. Then you got another one with a lot more attack, that kind of a bit more wacky. It sounds like this. And that one's kind of like tucked in the background just to give a little bit of punch. And then I also had Rami just kind of like layer the bass part up with electric bass. And so all three of them sound like this. And so at this point, I'm starting to feel fucking great. I mean, especially here, let's bring in those fucking Enya vocals, as I call them. I have them as Enya vocals in my session. So here, let me just make everything active. Boom. So now I'm rocking with this. Okay, so I'm on cloud nine at this point, and I grab my acoustic guitar. It's funny how just like years, right, or months of just banging my head against the wall and just kind of like slowly trying to chisel away. Of at some point, things come together quick when once you reach that epiphany. And so I just started strumming along to my acoustic guitar, just like some basic shit, and that was feeling good too. Okay, so that was the foundation. And I think I even made a demo, or I made a rough mix of like just that. And I was sending it to like some of my friends and collaborators, and people were starting to get pretty stoked. Now, what I did from here was I started working on the synths, and the synths are very, very fun. I don't want. I know that this is running really long. What I did with some of these synths was that I actually I actually would I recorded them in Pro Tools at different tempos and different keys, and then I would use Ableton's algorithms to just kind of like to warp them into the actual key and tempo of the song. So you'd get some that would feel like they were really slowed down and warbly, but they're actually in the correct tempo, and vice versa. Some that feel all sped up. So I'm just gonna like run through some of the layers that we got. So we got some pads. If you know, you know. That organ is really, I was going for the Walk of Life, Dire Straits sort of thing. So that's what was going on, and that started feeling really good. And then I just went to town with just like a bunch more, arpeggios, and that. So like the outros kind of sound like this. So now things are feeling super, super good to me, because we're kind of like at this point we're kind of like we're rocking here. Let me get this open. Boom. At this point, I'm rocking with this. It feels empty without that without that Enya vocal. So let's bring that bad boy in too. Um, that stuff really fills it up for me. So at this point, I feel like I'm kind of like done, like I'm feeling good, but I felt like there was something that was missing. At this point, there's like so much crap that it's almost insane that it was missing something. But I started playing this whoops, I started playing this counter melody on like a little tic tac piano. And that sounded really cool to me. It just kind of like it reminded me of like I don't know, like 70s, more like 70s music. You can't even hear it buried. You can't even hear it buried under everything else. But what I did was I just made a ton of nice layers of that melody. Yeah, baby. So at this point, we're pretty much done. The only two missing links was adding some sax. This was, I played it for Tim, and he was like, could you use some sax? Could you use some sax? And then this producer, a hip hop producer and a sax player named Jay Dawa, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, just contacted me via TikTok out of the blue and was just like, hey, if you need some saxophone. So funny you should say that, I said. And he sent me these takes of him of him playing saxophone and just kind of fucking wailing for that outro. And sounds like this. And so I actually had all of these playing at the outro, and Tim ended up using his arrangement shoes, and he actually picked one part, and he kind of strategically had the sax kind of showing up at a point where the guitar could be the focus for a bit. But in my version, I just had like four different saxes kind of wailing at the same time. Dreamsville, right? Oh, I should also say, I shouldn't forget, I've got all this this ear candy. Just like a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily hear. I don't want to break down all of this, but just like here's just the ear candy kind of like muted or soloed up. Sorry, those are just little sound effects kind of like tucked in the background, but more stuff that you feel more than you hear. You can't even hear them. It just kind of like, it's more of a feel thing. So we got that. And then the very last thing that was very exciting for me to do was these, here, let's see, these vocal ad-libs that I did. This was super, super exciting for me because I have kind of always wanted to sing like a metal singer. And I had, just want to make sure I don't get cut off. I had been training myself to kind of like sing high, like a metal singer. And I recorded myself singing shit like, that's what I'm talking about. All right. There we go. If you watch this whole thing, I'd love to know. Leave me a comment if you watch this whole thing. I feel like this is maybe mostly just like a self-indulgent thing to do, but it's fun to kind of just like go back because this song took a long fucking time to make. It just like sometimes they come easy, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's moments where it feels like you're never gonna figure it out, and then there's like big light bulb moments where you get bursts of energy and a lot of things come together then. But it you know, the creative process, at least for me, it shows up in all different shapes and sizes. So thank you for watching this. Again, if you like this video, please consider joining my Patreon, patreon.com/CalveroSings. I go really deep into my creative process. Sometimes I make short videos like this. If you are an all access Patreon member, you're going to be able to hear full demos that I've played over here. So again, thank you for watching. Keep listening to I Hate When I Think About You by Calvero. I'm working on the next one now. It's called Satellite. That's another song where you can hear it on Patreon. You can hear the songwriting demo with my actual vocals that I'm going to be using for the production. So yeah, we're keeping it moving. Calvero Nation, baby.